Why you should never stay in sketchy motels. In 2005, a young woman on a solo road trip across the country decided to stop for the night. The first place she sees is the Mountaintop Motel. It looked pretty cheap, but she was tired, so she said good enough. The check-in guy eyed her up and down very uncomfortably and then asked her if she was traveling alone. She ignores the question, pays for her room, and then walks away with the key. When she gets inside her room and sees there are literally cockroaches in her bed, she says nope and decides to sleep in her car in the parking lot. Around 3 a.m., she wakes up to see the check-in guy using his own keys to get into the motel room she was supposed to be in. A few minutes later, he storms out and slams the door and starts walking towards her car. Terrified, she hides under her blanket as the man tries to open her car doors but can't and walks away. She speeds off and calls her friend and asks her to look up the address of Mountaintop Motel so she can give it to police. Her friend's quiet for a second and then just says, "The Mountaintop Motel closed a week ago."
Time for another creepy story time. My parents had me in their early 20s and ended up getting divorced when I was less than a year old. I often spent the night at my grandma's house on my mum's side since my mum didn't have much money at the time. I don't remember this happening, but my mother and grandmother tell me the story like it was yesterday. When I was really little, I would come out of my room and tell everyone that there was a lady that stood over my crib at night and watched me sleep. Since I was so little, everyone thought I was just making up stories and it was my imagination or I was just dreaming. This continued on for months, and one day my mum and grandma were looking through a photo book, and as they were just flipping through the pages, she lands on a photo of my dad's mum, my other grandma, and I pointed right to her and said, "That's the lady that stands over my crib at night."
Story time about one of the scariest days of my life. Disclaimer, not my story. When I was 15, I was working at McDonald's just to make a little extra money. One day we had this lady come in and she said she wanted a taco. I told her, "We don't sell tacos." She got really mad and climbed on the counter and tried to punch me. I ran to get my managers or one of my coworkers. I saw my manager in the back and grabbed him to help me get this lady out of the building. The lady was standing on the counter screaming. My manager grabbed the phone and called 911. The police showed up and got her out of the building. This was one of the scariest days of my life.
This is why you should think twice before putting dolls in your room. When I was about 12, I experienced what I can only describe as an unsettling incident. In my bedroom, I had bookshelves mounted on the wall with various toys and model aeroplanes displayed on them. Also on the shelf were 3 large action figures. One sunny afternoon, I was downstairs when I heard an unbelievably loud crash come from my room upstairs. I ran upstairs thinking there may have been a minor earthquake, but when I got to my room, everything was in place except my 3 action figures. And not just that, but the limbs of all 3 were twisted into grotesque angles which would have been impossible if they'd just fallen off the shelf. One of their heads was even turned completely back.